Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't send a text that I meant to send 15 minutes ago.
Oops. All right. Welcome to the Netivot Shalom shir. Today's shir is on Netivot Shalom, the second volume, volume Beit, starting with Peichet 88. The title of it is Yom Menucha Kedusha. Shabbos is a day of rest and holiness. The Netivot Shalom says as follows: Isa b'midrash. It is said in the midrash, al pasuk Vayar b'sivlosam. In Shemot, when Moshe Rabbeinu is growing up, and of course we know he grew up in the king's palace, in Paro's palace, and then he went out for a walk, and he saw the suffering. He saw the suffering of the Jewish people. So what did he see? Ra Moshe saw she'ein lahem menucha. He saw they had no rest. They were being worked 7 days a week. Halach, he went. V'omer LaParo, he said to Paro, he says, hey Paro buddy, Mishi yesh lo eved, anybody who has a slave, im enu noach yom echad b'shvua, if he doesn't give him a chance to rest one day in the week, hu meis, he's going to die. Bilu avadecha, im emat tamniach lehem yom echad b'shvua, hey meisim, and your servants, your slaves, if you don't give them a day of rest in the week, they're going to die. So you need to save your capital here. You need to not have your slaves die on you. So Paro said, okay, lech v'asei lahem k'moshe tamar, go and do to them what you've said. Halach Moshe went, v'tikun lahem es yom haShabbos leNoach, and he chose the day of Shabbos for them to rest on. So, Ot Isa v'midrash l'halan, also the midrash said there, al pasuk techabed ha'avoda al ha'anoshim. When Paro heard, when Moshe came and asked that the Jewish people be freed, Paro said, make their work harder. He says, make their work harder, v'yasu ba al Yishuv b'divrei sheker, and don't let them be involved with these words of falsity, these lies that Moshe is telling them that the Jewish people were doing. What are these lies that Paro said was a lie? Shahayu biyadam, the Jews had in their hands Megillot, scrolls, Shahayu mishtashin bohen mishabbos l'shabbos, that they would study from one Shabbos to the next. Lomer, and these scrolls said, Sha'akadosh Baruch Hu go'alan, that Hashem was going to redeem them. So here they were looking forward to this redemption, to the Geula. They had these scrolls that said it's going to happen. They had, obviously, this tradition from the time that Yaakov came into Mitzrayim. They had these scrolls that said they're going to be redeemed. They were reading this all the time, and Paro said, we've got to give them more work so they can't read these scrolls and have this, I guess, can't read these scrolls, and
too much free time.
Too much free time. So we got to make them work harder, so they won't be doing that.
It's okay.
So how did they read these? They were able to read these because they were resting on Shabbos. They had nothing to do on Shabbos. Shabbos was the day that they got off, that Moshe was matakin, and therefore, since they were resting on Shabbos, they could read about the Geula. They were looking forward to the Geula, the ultimate redemption. Amar le Paro, T'chabedu avoda al ha'anashim v'yasu ba'al Yishuv b'dvar sheker. He wanted to stop that. So ayu mishtashin ayu novshim b'yom Shabbos. Don't be reading these Megillos and don't rest on the day of Shabbos. Ad kan. That's what the Medrash says. Nimtza. So we see Ad kan. Imkain. Therefore, we see Demash Moshe Rabbeinu Golin. Moshe Rabbeinu Hashem Golin Shal Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu, who ultimately was involved in the redemption of Bnei Yisrael, Tikkun Lim et Shabbos. He started for them the day of Shabbos. This was the beginning of the redemption of Bnei Yisrael from Israel. And this was the spark of life, the little spark of life. When you plant a seed in the ground, the seed completely degenerates except for one little thing that's almost completely destroyed, and one little thing is left, and that's the kusta d'chiyusa. That's the spark of life that remains from which grows the plant. So the kusta d'chiyusa that Moshe Rabbeinu planted was Shabbos, so they could talk about the geula, about the redemption. Uvakoho his chazaku, and through the strength of this reading about the redemption, the strength of resting on Shabbos, of having a Shabbos day, they became strong in their belief in the redemption. V'chein omer Chazal, and this is why Chazal tell us, the sages tell us, Yisrael nigolim ayidei Shabbos, that Bnei Yisrael were redeemed because of Shabbos. Odis b'shem Admor b'divrei Shmuel, Zechus Yogan Aleinu. Divrei Shmuel was one of the great grandparents of the Slonim Rebbe, who wrote a book called Divrei Shmuel, and he lived in about 1830, 1850, something like that. So he said, the pasuk says at the very beginning of Shemos, it says, "Ve'ele Shemos b'nei Yisrael haboyim Mitzrayim." These are the names of b'nei Yisrael that came to Egypt. Now he says the Rosh Tevas, the beginning of the beginning letters of Shemos b'nei Yisrael haboyim. You can see he's got them kind of written out as if they're separately. So those four letters spell Rosh Tevas Shivya, which is captivity. Isi Yaakov, Ish, and I'm sorry, S. It says further in the pasuk. Es Yaakov Ish, and so on. So the Sof Tevos, the end letters of that spells Shabbos. So you have in the first pasuk in Shemos, the very beginning pasuk. So the Divrei Shmuel says Eile Shmos Bnei Yisrael Boim Mitzrayim Eis Yaakov Ish Beis Rabo. From that sentence, from the words in that sentence, he comes out with two words: captive and Shabbos. So we're going to talk about
the last letters back.
the last letters of right. The Sof Tevos of the letters Es Yaakov, Ish Yaakov, and then the first letters of the Shmos Bnei Yisrael. V'hinei Torah Kodesh Nitzchis, and we know that the Torah is not a storybook; it's something forever. Umaparshios Elu Shagalos V'Geula Bichlalos Yisrael, from these various parshos in Shemot that talks about the redemption of Israel, Analomdim ala matzavim akashim ovrim b'chayei haprat shem b'chinas galus. We learn from this about about how you get through the difficult times that are happening to us this very day, this very moment of time in which we live. Mahem gorme hagalus, how they cause the exile. Eich nechlatzim mehem umagim legula, and they teach us how to get out of these difficulties and come into redemption. V'yesh lilmod, and one can learn mitchasisei paro, from the trickery of Paro, eich lishabdam legalut, how you can serve, how you can deal with the galut that you're in. Command Omer, as it says later on in Shmos, very shortly after these psukim we read, Vayakum melech chadash, a new king arose. Vayomer alamud, he said to his people, Vagomer, and so on. He says, Havan is chachmalo pen yirba. Let's be wise, let's be smart, and take action so they don't multiply. Melech chadash, when the pasuk uses the word melech, a king, a new king, merumas bezeh, it hints ala yetzer hora, on the yetzer hora. Who's the yetzer hora? Melech zakan v'kasil, an old wise, an old foolish king, kasil, an old foolish king. Shekochos asitr acher, the powers of the yetzer hora, of the evil one, so to speak, choshishin, are worried. Pen koach hakadusha, they're worried about the power of holiness. They're worried that the power of holiness, Yisgaber al koach hasitr acher, will overcome them and drive out the yetzer hora. Because where you have the power of kedusha, the yetzer hora falls by the side. Just like when you have the power of emunah, the power of true emunah, pachad, fear, falls by the side. When emunah comes in, pachad goes out. And because of this, all amin horetz, they went out of the land. Sheyigershum misholtonim ba'artziot. They are kicked out from the power that the Yetzer Hora has over them, of tying them to the things in this world, the desires in this world, and moving them away from Kedusha. And this then became their advice as to how to survive. So Vayividu Mitzrayim es Bnei Yisrael beforech. It says in the pasuk that Mitzrayim made Bnei Yisrael serve. They caused them to serve with soft words. V'yomoru es chayehem, and Paro made their life miserable. V'avoda kasha, with hard work, v'gomer, and so on. Lamana nosa b'shivlosam, in order to make them suffer from their sufferings. V'perish b'zeh, and the explanation of this, she'etza kedei lahachiam, the advice in order to be able to extricate yourself from this situation, he's lahaviam lebilbul hadaas. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. To immerse you in the situation. Yeah, to immerse you in the situation. The advice, what the Yetzer Hora uses to immerse you in the situation, as Paro did by the hard work, was to get them to work so hard that they had bilbul hadaas, which means their mind was confused, they couldn't think a straight thought. Oz, and then shuv en koach hakadosh yochol lis rabos. The power of holiness couldn't come in. K'man domer b'silas yishorim, as I say in b'silas yishorim, shatrados, the concerns, vadagos, and the worries, hemu mafside hachsidus. They separate you from chasidus, meaning they separate you from the concerns, keep you from doing those things that are right in this life. You get so involved in the troubles and travails of the world, it keeps you from advancing as you should advance. V'atam bazeh, and the reason for this, the hayesod harishon, the chol davar shebekdusha, the main aspect that one needs for anything that is a thing of holiness is Yishuv Hadaas. You need Yishuv Hadaas. You need a tranquility of your mind. You need to be in a situation where you understand that everything that has happened is because Hashem wants it to happen, and you're not going to be sitting here worrying, what's going to be this, what's going to be this. It's all from Hashem. So you accept it completely. You have this tranquility because you know that whatever happens is Hashem's desire. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic, don't get upset. Have Yishuv Hadaas. It's what Hashem wanted to happen. Who knows the reason? Horrible things happen. We don't know the reason. Accept them, as my father Al Hashem used to say, with equanimity. It's an interesting word to use, equanimity. It's accept it and be comfortable with it.
I think there's a very fine line though, Nick, between, Hishtadlut on the one hand and accepting with equanimity on the other hand. And knowing where to act and where not to act.
Well, it's not saying not to act. We have an obligation to act. Shmartem es nafsho seichem. Torah tells us specifically, you have to guard yourself. You have to do ishtadlus. But in doing your ishtadlus, you have to know that you do whatever you can, right? Whatever you're able to do. But after that, you can't be concerned that maybe your ishtadlu didn't get you the results that you wanted. You have to be satisfied that whatever happened is what Hashem wanted to happen. Absolutely right, Liz. You cannot go sit in the corner and say, okay, I'm just going to stand in this corner. Hashem will take care of me. Give me parnasa, take care of everything else I need. You need to do something towards it. Now, different people have to do different things, depending on your level of closeness to Hashem. Like Reb Zusha, all Reb Zusha had to say, he said, Zusha is cold, and all of a sudden it would warm up. Zusha is hungry, and all of a sudden he'd get fed. But most of us are not like that. So you have to do your little bit of a shtadlus. That was a shtadlus too. They tell a story, actually. Tell a story of I'm probably misquoting the name of the Rebbe. I want to say it was one of the Babisher Rebbes who was asked to raise money for a certain thing. And it was a very difficult situation. He needed some money. And they say there's a wealthy man at the end of town. Go knock on his door, and you can ask him for money. And he's in a position to give you enough money that you need. So the Rebbe goes up, knocks on the door, and then before the door is even open, he turns around and he leaves. And the homeowner opens the door and sees the Rebbe walking away. He goes running after him. He says, Rebbe, I'm here. What do you want? He says, I need some money. Well, why are you leaving? So I did my hishtadlu. So he got the money that way. So
it's like you and me.
He did the hishtadlut, right? So the level of hishtadlut differs from person to person. We can always strive to reach a higher level of that. No, I completely lost my place here.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We need Yishuv Hadaas. As Rav Kuvrin said, Shekol Hond Alma, Eina Shava L'Sha Achas, She'is Yisrael Omei Yishuv Hadaas. All of the wealth and all of the greatness of this world is not worth 1 hour of a Jew having total tranquility, total Yishuv Hadaas. Ubadas Miyusheves and Ubadeya Miyusheves, and a calm mind, an accepting mind. V'dayuk Admor B'divrei Shmuel Suchos Yigaleinu B'loshen Omeid. The Divrei Shmuel talks about Omeid. Omeid standing. What is he saying? V'yesh mish omnum yesh lo l'pa'amim Yishuv Hadaas. There are sometimes people who, for a short time, will have this difficult to attain Yishuv Hadaas, tranquility of mind. Ach, harizeh kebarak b'leil choshech hacholef over. But in most cases, it's like a bolt of lightning that comes in the darkness and immediately leaves and is gone. Ikar, and the main important thing is you omeid b'yishuv hadaas. This is what he says, omeid. You have to be able to stand. You have to be able to stay in this concept of yishuv hadaas. If you can stay in it, don't let it be like a lightning bolt in the dark sky and then it's gone. Let it stay with you. Nisha b'mamado. Let it stay in your life. Ulechein, and therefore haisa atzas paro. So therefore, the advice of Paro, Rosh HaKlipa, the head of of the uncleanliness was tichbad havoda. He wanted to increase their work. Shoyel torodim uvobalim, they would be so mixed up in their mind, so concerned about the work, they didn't have enough straw to make the bricks. Lo yeh lahem Yishuv Hadaas, and there would be no Yishuv Hadaas. Hayidei zeh hem yu biyado, and if they had no Yishuv Hadaas, no tranquility of mind, they would be in his hand. This is what we find where it says, Bnei Yisrael, when they were in Egypt, had sunken to the 49th level of uncleanliness. And they were in danger of falling into the 50th level. 50th level is a level that you cannot escape from. And now they quote a thing from the Gemara here. From the Medrash quotes it. That Shelo hayu echad mi Yisrael poretz ba'arayos. There wasn't not even one of Bnei Yisrael who was involved in any immoral acts in Egypt. And there wasn't one, and nonetheless, they publicized the fact that Bnei Yisrael was in the 49th level of Tumah. So how could that be? He asks, how could they be in the 49th level of Tumah, of uncleanliness, since they were very moral, the Jews in Egypt? We learn from this. If a person finds himself in an atmosphere of disgusting things, with klipas, disgusting things and immorality. Klipas Mitzrayim, ervas oretz, the immorality of Egypt was the worst in the land. And therefore, just their exposure to that put them in danger of being completely lost. And we learn a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos teaches us that you should always look for a shachin tov. Stay away from a shachin ra. Stay away from a bad neighbor. Be with a good neighbor, because even though you yourself are good, if you have a bad neighbor, you can fall into some bad practices. Vayachadim zeh, and together with this, ein lo Yishuv Hadaas b'chinas tichbad u'avoda al anashim. There's no Yishuv Hadaas because of all the work that was given. Tamidu asuk muvobel v'toret. The Jews were always working so hard that their mind was mixed up. They were always concerned about how they're going to make it from one minute to the next. Memela, who holech v'shokeh b'memtat shar tuma. Therefore, they were walking amidst the 49th level of tuma. V'oved mitochen chaim ruchni. And because of this, their spiritual life was taken away from them. Shekol she'ipusav hein lidabik b'Hashem. All of their desires were to come close to Hashem. L'tochen chaim chomri, to come out of a life of worldliness. Shekol hayiluch machshavoso l'sapek l'chomer et hanat nafshi abehemit amarchikim umafridim oso me'abor Yisrael shmo. That their whole intention was to their intention then was to fulfill all the worldliness, all their desires, their animal instincts that keep them far away from Hashem. And this is really what is meant internal exile. Where your neshama does not have any control over your animal instincts. In other words, your instincts of doing that which is satisfying to you on a worldly level and not giving any thought to what this does to your spiritual level. And that's in the aspect of shivya, of a captivity. Shehu itchala de hagalus. This is the beginning of galus, of exile. K'mozeh shnilkach b'shevi b'rei b'oyev. It's like somebody who is taken captive by an enemy. Afal pi shelo chas shelo klum. Even though he's not missing anything on a worldly level, achayav einam chayim, but his life is really not a life because he's a captive. K'mo kain. Similarly, Misha Chomer Hishtalet Alav, somebody whose worldly concerns control what he does. Patochan Chayev Niach Chomrim, and the whole purpose of his life is to deal with these worldly things. Hu b'shevi biyad oyev b'nefesh. He's like a captive of a person of an enemy who's captured himself. Toroso umasav atovim diem chamorim. His Torah, his good deeds, are also so connected to the worldly things. And because of the constant connection of these worldly things, he's making an iron barrier, a metal barrier between him and Hashem. And similarly, Gam Haman. Shiratz Lashmidas Yisrael. When Haman wanted to kill all Bnei Yisrael, Matzinush Amar, he said, Lahumam ula abdam, we will terrify them and destroy them. Shaderach lavid es koach hakadush Bnei Yisrael, the way to destroy the power of holiness of Bnei Yisrael is hi ayidei lahumam, is through terrifying them. Sha'az efsher la'avdam, because then by becoming terrified, you can become lost. Shachumriot tishtalet, al haruchnios, the worldly things take control of your spiritual thing. Control of your spirituality and make it difficult for your spiritual life to grow. The Vazora Kodesh says, Isish osios harishonos Mishemam shel Balak ubilam. He says the Zohar Kodesh points out that the first letters, the first two letters of the name Balak and Bilam are Bilbal, meaning to confuse. Bachronim, and the last two letters, Haim Amalek. The last two letters are each. So this is the purpose of the Yetzer Hara. He wants to first confuse us. And confuse us by having doubt, having suffix. Amalek, the gematria of Amalek is suffix, means doubt. So he wants to confuse us with doubt. Kizekam klipas Amalek. This is the purpose, the outer covering of Amalek. Lahachni says Adam babilbul Hadaas, to bring a person to confusion of his mind. Shaidezehu kulu biyad Yetzor, because if you're totally confused, you have doubts about things, and you're totally within the hand of the Yetzer Hara. Bo'etza, let's say Shivya hu Shabbos. The advice to get out of this captivity is Shabbos. Shehu Yom Shal Yishuv Hadaas. This is the day of Yishuv Hadaas, of tranquility of your mind. Yom Menucha Kedusha, a day of rest, a day of holiness. Shayidei HaMenucha, through the rest of Yishuv Hadaas, and through Yishuv Hadaas, through the being content with where you are, being happy with where you are, not worrying about worldly things, Hu Yom HaKadosh, that's how it becomes a holy day. Shabbos hi makor haruchnios. Shabbos is the main aspect, the main base, the headquarters of spirituality. Yomam de Nishmasa, a day of the neshama, a day of the soul. Lav Yom de Gufel Klal, not a day of your body at all. Shayidei Shehudi Misnar b'Shabbos Kodesh Mikol Asokov, just as when a Jew severs on Shabbos all of his thoughts about work, all of his work, v'terdosiv, all of his concerns, mikol and yondav havanaosav hachomrim, from all the desires that he has in the week, the worldly desires, umisamek lizdabek b'Hashem, and he works hard to come close to Hashem. Az masugalhu, then he'll be worthy lishtachrer mi miashivya. He'll be worthy of being freed from the captivity of the week, of the rest of the captivity of life. Mazike hachomriot, the damage of this worldliness, shu asur b'hem kol hashavua, that imprisons you all week long, mikotzer ruach, you have shortness of breath, mavoda kasha, from hard work. It also says in the parsha that the Jews couldn't do anything mikotzer ruach mavoda kasha because of the shortness of breath and the hard work. Rashi has an interesting comment there. I think it's the first time I've seen it. The concept of the effect of the psychosomatic effect of something, because here they couldn't, they were so mavalbal, they were so confused in their spirit, things were so difficult for them. They had kotzer ruach, shortness of breath, they had asthma, some of them, or something like that. Rashi says that. He says kotzer ruach. He says that that kind of work can and concern can cause physical problems. The beginning of the redemption was with this. Shebikesh Moshe Rabbeinu as Paro. When Moshe first asked Paro, She'ite lam Yisrael Yom HaShabbos l'menucha, when he first asked them to give a day of Shabbos for rest. Shebekoach or Kedushas HaShabbos, from the power of the light of holiness of Shabbos, Roa, we can see Shekol Hanos HaChomer HaKol Havel, that all of the benefits that we get from all the worldly things that we desire, it's really nothing compared to what you can achieve on a spiritual level. Kamo Begalus, and similarly in exile, Haklal Kain Begalus Haprat, the generality is the same with each one of us, in each our own exiles. Shabbos Kodesh Lashem Yochel Lezakus Legula Ruchnios. Through Shabbos, we are able to come out of that personal exile and merit to have a redemption of the spirit. We also find the same thing in the Parshas Hamabel that we just read about in the flood a couple of weeks ago. The Isei Zohar Kodesh, the Zohar Kodesh says, the Noach Merumas l'Shabbos Kodesh. Noach hints at Shabbos. Why? The Nicha le'iloi, v'nicha l'satoi. He was gave rest to the ones above and to the ones below. Umerumas bezeh, it's hinted at by this, Sha'idei Shabbos Kodesh, through Shabbos, v'kochol she'Yehudi, it is in the power of a Jew, he not sell b'mei hamabel. Excuse me. The not sell b'mei hamabel hazidonim. It's Jew has the power, through the power of Shabbos, to be saved from the wicked waters of his own personal flood, of the floods that encompass us during our own existence. Because the whole aspect of mabul, a flood, comes from the word bilbul. It's confusing your mind. Shanis balbul call seder habri. The mabul itself confused the whole order of creation. Kihoya zem mida connected mida, because this was mida connected mida. Hashem does things.
Measure for measure.
Thank you. Measure for measure. Kivin shepagam dora mabul, the defect of the generation of the mabul, hoya bilbul hadaas, was they were confusing the minds. They had a bilbul, a confusion of the minds. The zeh shoresh kol pagam, because this confusion of the minds is the main aspect of all defects that we have. Kushmosh Omru Venuzal, as our sages have said, Ein Adam over Avera. El Im Kein Nichnasa Borachtus. A person doesn't commit a sin unless a momentary insanity overtakes him, a moment of foolishness. Kiyodua, as it is known, the Shorish Pagomim Elu Shalash Chasa, that the root of these defects that lead to destruction, Novim Imoach Hadaas, they flow from the mind and the intellect. Alkain, Shabbos Kodesh he hatikun. Therefore, Shabbos is the repair, v'hatzala, and the salvation, the saving of this, from this. Kamar, as it said, Shabbos Kodesh he makor b'shoresh Yishuv Hadaas. Shabbos is the headquarters and the root of Yishuv Hadaas, of tranquility of the mind. V'koloshen HaMidrash, as it says in the Midrash, al aposi v'yechulu ha'shamayim v'aretz, the Hashem completed the heavens and the earth. The Havenu La'el, as we've said before, one of his previous teachings, Kol Zaman Shoyo Olam Tohu Vavohu, all the time that the world was nothingness, Lo Niret Melechet Shemayim Ba'aretz. We didn't see the work of heaven and earth. Kivin Shenekar Tohu Vavohu Min Olam, when the nothingness was removed from the world, Niret Melechet Shemayim Ba'aretz. And we see the work of heaven and earth. Hu Adover, as it says, V'yechulu Hashmayim Ba'aretz V'chol Tzavom, that Hashem completed the heavens and the earth and all of their hosts. V'hainu to the Shabbos, on Shabbos, Neker Hatov Avo Bin Holam. Shabbos removes and uproots the nothingness and of the world. Kishesh Yehudi Yishuv Hadaas, and if a Jew has Yishuv Hadaas, Az be'einav yira es borei kol holamim, he will see the creator of all the worlds, mitoch kol brias shemayim ba'aretz, from the creation of all of heaven and earth. Vaz einu nofel b'chatoim elu, and he will not fall into these sins. Asher kol ma'aseim b'chashecha, all of their deeds are done in the darkness of the mind, the bilbul hamoach. Be'es yishroi b'chashechas hanefesh, bli ha'aras hadas, at the time that he sits in darkness of the soul, without light, without knowledge to light it up. L'cheina Shabbos Kodesh. Therefore, Shabbos he bechinas tevas Noach, is like the teva of Noach, the ark of Noach. L'chasot ba, to cover everything, to protect. K'modo Amar, Shabbos Kodesh, Nafshos Yisrael B'tzel Kunefech Yechsoyim. We see that on Shabbos, the souls of Bnei Yisrael are covered by the shadow of your wings, of Hashem's wings. Hashem's wings is covering us with the shadow. So to a Shabbos, covering us with a shadow, covering us with an envelope of Yishuv Hadaas, where we can finally reach a level of being satisfied where we are, and understanding that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. Hashem has given us and has done to us exactly what's supposed to be done to us, and coming to grips with it, and being happy with it, and understanding that nothing is failing, despite what the terror and the troubles that go on around us. Everything is from Hashem, even though we don't always understand the reasons why. Nonetheless, it's all from Hashem. So I bless all of us to have Yishuv Hadaas on Shabbos, and not only on Shabbos, but the rest of the week too. You can also scare out pachad, fear, with Amunah. So let Amunah come in and pachad leave.
She comes.